Very select questions may receive a response.
Hey Kapil, thanks for taking my question. You mentioned somewhere that to be truly great, you must understand that the human body does not respond very well to goals or hopes or expectation. It responds to perceptions. Can you elaborate more on that, please?
How's it going, Doctor? Big fan, obviously. I usually come to these rooms. So my question is, I think it's really easy to sort of, get like riled up and create all this energy, if you're going after a goal, and maybe even trick yourself to believe, that it's the truth, that, this is sort of your calling. And I guess my question is, you know, should someone differentiate between that, or does it even matter?
Why would you think it matters?
Well, no, I guess I guess like you sort of chase like one dragon after the other, and maybe this sort of just becomes like just another pursuit for you to come back to square one and realize that maybe it wasn't.
Me saying yes or no to that does not really make a visceral change in someone's life. If it's something that you perceive, it's something that you have discovered for yourself, then that will create um, a new pursuit, even if that new pursuit is the ending of pursuits. But for me to say yes or no would just be empty.
Okay, so you're saying that if as long as it's for a purpose and it's something
Well,
that
no, because then
you
you're sort of prescriptionizing. I think you're too interested in what I think. I mean, when in order to ask a question, one cannot sit at zero and ask a question because the question will not have any substance to it. It's kind of like the person who sits in one place and says, "Tell me what Paris is like," and I can say whatever I want. It doesn't do anything for you, you know. But if someone goes to Paris and someone has seen the streets of Paris, and then there's a particular street that he can't find, then it's a much more nuanced question because it has substance behind it. There's weight behind the question. It isn't just put into my lap and then I give a decree as to yes or no. It's empty. It's a waste of my time because I have no interest in saying yes or no, and it's a waste of yours because whatever I say will not. You'll just go away with a yes or no in your pocket, and like a ticket from the fair. And so what? Your life will not in any way change um, after you hang up this call. Therefore, the question does not is not worthy of asking.
understood.
So if someone is on a certain pursuit and they're trying to achieve something, but they're still giving into distractions like just various
So
distractions.
who is the someone?
Oh, me. Should I just say me?
Okay, sure.
So could this be a byproduct of my mind and thought, or could this be an indication that my desire isn't strong enough, or is this something I can only answer through introspection?
Once again, why does it matter?
Well, I guess on various
Because you can't
podcasts.
work on it. You can't work on it. So if let's say that it was because your desire wasn't strong enough. Let's say that was
Yeah,
you can't pump up the desire.
you can't like
So
cultivate it or anything.
no.
Because yeah, I guess
Can you?
I hear
I
you
mean,
talk about the only reason you are where you are is because
yeah,
somewhere
you
within
hear
you.
me talk about that, sure, but the the problem the problem in reading things that I write is that one turns it into something to try to get, and
Oh,
and that and you're not to be blamed for that because that's what everyone does. That's what everyone's been conditioned and brainwashed to do is to go do this, go try to do that, go be better at this. The entire culture, and therefore you bring those same type of habits over into this domain where they don't work, and they don't work anywhere. But here, it it is outright spoken that they don't work. So don't even do it. Um, so it nothing matters if you can't do anything about it. Then, because if you can't do anything about it, then the question becomes trivial pursuit. It's just curiosity, and then it's just that, oh, that's nice, or oh well. It doesn't go anywhere.
okay. Thank you.
Just wanted to ask a question. I'd like to know the difference between a genuine desire, a pure desire, a mindless desire, over, say, a fruitless, empty, dead end desire. You know, one of those things that wanes after time. Um,
Hey, Kapil, in your experience of working with CEOs and business people, what are the commonalities through the lens of truth that you see, like business owners have the most success and the most scale with? Like, what's the commonality?
It doesn't. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Who cares? What are you going to do? Copy it? I mean, there's no point in this question. Let's say that they all comb their hair to the left and they wear polka dot shirts. What are you going to do? You're going to read the 7 Habits of Effective People? Is that what you're going to do? I mean, maybe they chew gum on the left side of their mouth. Maybe they brush their teeth at 8:30 a.m. instead of 7:30 a.m. What are you going to go copy that for the morning routines? What are you going to find mental hacks and mental models? Who cares? There's no putting people on pedestals and trying to copy them. Once again, you're just bringing in the trash from the world into over here, and this is not trash pickup day. Don't bring it over here. What commonalities? What are you talking about? I mean, they're this and they're this. So what? What are you going to do? Go be that? And if you do that, who will you be? By you copying somebody else, no matter how much you may look up to them or see how successful they are, so what? Then you're just a slave. You're just a mimic. There's no copying anybody. Whatever worked for somebody, it worked for them. It may work for you, it may not. But if you're going to look in the direction of other people, then what does that make your life? It's just more self-help. Really, it's lower than low. The self-help and the habits of effective people and the this and that and copy and mimic and all these success leaves clues, this garbage that you just picked up from the world in this motivational speaking and it's unless someone is willing to understand that everything that they've heard is trash, it isn't true, it's not real. If that was the case, then people who bought, some famous person writes a biography and it sells, hundreds of thousands of copies, then you should see hundreds and thousands of successful people after having read that biography. But do you see even one? I mean, those things don't go. Everything's just a tabloid. Everything you read is just a tabloid. What do you mean? What do you care? I understand. I understand that you're conditioned. I understand. Everyone is conditioned. I understand that. I don't blame you. But if you consider that, let's say that I was to say that A, B, and C, they all do this. I'm sure that you may actually get up and then go do that too. But if that was the case, once again, you have to, everyone's got a couple of neurons in their head. Everyone does. Even the most dense among us has a couple of neurons in their head. Okay, just basic logic. If one was to copy somebody else, then those who have read the thousands of articles about the habits of successful people and they read the biographies, and then they would have been successful because of that. By doing that, and quite frankly, then that's all. You would never even need to do anything. You would just do what they did, if that was the case. And then you would see 1 million Picassos, and you'd see 10 million Rembrandts, and it would just be a world of successful artists all over the show, and that's what you would have. That's what logic states, if that was the case. And if you will actually, by your own admission, should not have any problem to admit that that isn't the case, then what would be the point of asking what they do and what their habits are and all of this just fluff? It's all fluff. Burn your books. Don't read Silicon Valley people's recommendation of books. Don't wear togas and talk about Stoicism. Burn your books, turn off your computer. Don't listen to the media. Don't read magazines. Don't look at the latest blogs. Don't read the latest hacks. You can if you wish, but they're not true. Once again, because I say no, because look at the evidence. If that was true, then those who read those things would get what the people that they read about got. And anyone with half an eyeball can see that that obviously isn't the case. And not that it should be the case or shouldn't be the case. It isn't the case. It's not good, it's not bad. It isn't unfortunate, it is unfortunate, but it isn't the case. Therefore, for whatever reason, if it isn't the case, why ever pursue that again?
Do you think there's a reason behind this conditioning or a motive behind the conditioning that we receive from society?
Well, it's really all that's available. There's no motive behind why a dog barks, and it isn't evil because it barks, and it's not good because it barks. It's it's the habit that it picked up somewhere along the way. It's DNA. And in the same way, if you look at society, the vast majority of people that you meet in society are not evil. Most people are very pleasant and want to help, but society as a whole even isn't evil. But you have to look at what it's composed of. And when you see what it's composed of, then you don't look at things in terms of judgments. You look at things in terms of the only way they can be, because whatever a thing is composed of, that's the only thing it can give. And so society is composed of common people, the masses. Now, the masses weren't made, the human being wasn't made to be common, but he chose to be so, by way of conditioning, by way of brainwashing, and each person conditions the other. Now, unless a person has a DNA which moves against all that society purports, unless a person has a sensibility and a DNA which for whatever inexplicable reason, tends to run the other way, it is virtually impossible that he won't become conditioned. So wherever one lives, that's the conditioning he will get. And so the human being lives where? Well, he lives in a world of lies. What are the lies? Well, the books are lies. The magazine articles are lies. The blogs are lies. The Stoicism and the togas and all these things are lies. They're all lies. And they're all lies not because there isn't some factual things in there, that are real. They're lies because the impetus behind them are lies. They are all force-fed. Everyone is told that if you practice X, Y, and Z, you'll get that. But even the ones who tell that aren't even getting that. So no one gets the thing from the X, Y, and the Z. And so it is all jargon. As a result, if someone is brought up, which everyone is obviously, in that environment, then that's the only thing he's been exposed to. So why would he not become conditioned? It wasn't his fault. It's no one's fault. Why would he not become conditioned? If you live in a world of lies and you subscribe to that world, then you have to be full of lies. The only way you wouldn't be is if you treated the world like the devil, and you hung crosses around your neck, and you ran the other way at every opportunity you had. Then there's a possibility that at least you could limit the conditioning. But aside from something radical like that, the conditioning is inevitable. Once again, there's nothing that I said is based upon belief. I mean, it's basic logic. Wherever you are, that's the conditioning that you're going to get.
Thank you.
Follow up question on the same. How do you get out of that conditioning? Isn't it be rebellious if you just start opposing everything what society have?
Well, how did you get into the conditioning?
We're just following what
Did
society.
did you have a strategy to get into it?
Nope.
Then why do you ask for a strategy to get out of it?
I mean,
Is there any merit in the statement that there are no stupid questions?
It depends how you define stupid. How you yourself, since you're the one asking the question, it depends how you yourself define the word stupid, number one. Number two, it could be that this question is insincere. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it could be. And the reason that this could be an insincere question based upon outrage is because you believe that every question should be answered and that everyone should get a turn and everyone should get equal amount of time for the question asked because there are no stupid questions. That could be what you're kind of getting at. It may not be a real question at all. It may be outrage dressed up as a question.
Change and truth seeking go hand in hand. Like I'm a
I
middle
cannot.
class.
Your voice broke up. I couldn't hear you.
Am I audible now?
Go ahead.
So my question is that can the pleasure change and truth seeking go hand in hand? Like I'm a middle class man from India who is seeking money to stabilize life, but have is attracted to truth as well. Truth inspires me. So can both go?
But why? Hang on. See, why do you separate money from truth in this particular example? So you need money unless you're willing to beg on the street, which is fine. But unless you're willing to do that, which it doesn't sound like you are, um, do you need money to survive?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a truth, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
And so what happens is that people turn truth into spirituality, which is what you're doing. You're putting money in this practical, worldly, material box, and you're putting truth in the spiritual box. And because you've been banged over the head with the incense carrying swamis and the gurus and the pundits who walk around saying money is bad, money is evil, thou shalt not chase materialism, and all these things. Therefore, in response to that conditioning, you put truth in the spirituality box. Truth is this pure thing, and money is this impure thing, and never shall they meet. That's what you have done. Okay, but in actuality, if you can get over that conditioning by realizing the fact that truth is the only thing there is. In fact, the thing that is not true is spirituality. Spirituality is the materialism. Because if you listen to people talk about meditation, they talk about how long they meditated. They have meditation competitions. They talk about which guru they go with, and what color yoga mat they do, and how many hours they did that week. And they talk about my guru is better than your guru. They talk about, well, I like his speeches, I don't like your guy's speeches because they're no good. That's material. That is no different. In fact, that's even worse. Because at least if someone says, my shirt is more expensive than your shirt, at least that is honest, because it is openly material. There's no charade there. There's no camouflaging there. Okay, but spirituality is supposed to be this godly thing, right? Which is pure and proper and the right way to be. But that's all materialistic. So actually, the thing that needs to be gotten rid of first is spirituality, not money. Because you think chanting is going to feed your stomach? You think chanting and giving money to the church and the temple and dropping money in in the whatever that plate they pass around in the church and giving to the poor, is that going to feed your children? That's not going to feed anybody. So your reality, the way that you live, that's the truth. You need money to survive unless you're willing to beg. Therefore, how to get money, that's also a truth. So truth is the only practical thing there is. It is spirituality that is not practical. It is spirituality that is materialistic. It is self-help that is not practical. It is self-help that is materialistic. All those things are, my shirt is more expensive than your shirt. My car is nicer than your car. All of the self-help and spirituality is guilty of that, not the money. But yes, if someone says, I have more money than you, and they want to make that competition, fine. Obviously, that's materialistic and salacious. But that's no more salacious than the guru fighting and the which books do you read? And I read this one twice, and you only read it once, and I found this quote over here, and you found that one over there. That's no different. But at least the pure materialism is pure. Spirituality isn't pure. That's the answer to your question.
Thank you, Doctor. Thanks.
Does the pursuit of the truth and loneliness go hand in hand?
Well, how many people do you think are really genuinely seeking truth in the world?
Not very many.
Right. And so you don't have to seek it to be lonely. Since even at the very beginning, there's only 4 people seeking it, right? So so-called loneliness, it was from the very beginning. It isn't like a million started and then ended up with, and then they became too lonely, so they left, right? No one's even seeking it. So the so-called loneliness is from the very beginning. So there's no mass excitement, and the number of people who are seeking genuine things in the world, whether it's truth or anything else, is very small. But if one, and that's why truth is not for the social person. The person who's social can never seek truth. I mean, he can, but he'll never, because because the interest in being around others and having a support system and having others do it with him and this and that, that sensibility will never allow him to do whatever is necessary to get there, because he will always have the conditions that socialness brings.
So does having a family preclude one from pursuing the truth?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, there's no laws. It's in fact, and when you have a family, there's a truth as to how to live in peace with a family. There's a truth in raising children. There's a truth in finding a way to support the family, and so everything. So once again, you're kind of going along the same lines as the last questioner, where it was truth is like this spiritual thing, and quite honestly, there is not a single thing in any domain, from even the most materialistic thing, whose basis is not founded in truth. If you want to buy a car, there's a truth as to how to get the best price. Truth is the only practical thing there is, and it runs in the veins of every single thing. And in fact, anything which runs in the vein other than truth is false. That can only lead to failure and suffering.
Yeah, I think I understand. Thank you.
If 99% of humans haven't been exposed to the truth, doesn't it then follow that all of the questions from these humans will also be false?
Do you mean the questions that are received here?
I also mean here as well, yes.
Well, there's always a reason why, there's always a cosmic reason as to why something happens to intersect with someone in someone's life. And whether or not that's ever known is an entirely different story. But there is the truth of sincerity. And wherever one ends up in his life, there was a time when he wasn't there. And so there was a crossover point. There was a bridge. There was a transition. And so therefore, the truth of sincerity, or at least the possibility of it, exists within every human being. And so one could ask a question based upon false notions. But if there is genuineness, and if there is sincerity in wanting to know, then that can lead to a possibility. That can lead to that individual um, gradually shedding the conditioning, because he may not even have known that. And so if it provided a possibility for him to do that, then that falseness that he came with could eventually lead to truth.
Hello. So, yeah. See, as I'm trying to be aware about myself, I'm realizing that sometimes maybe I like those anxiety, like tension, like that normal life. And if when I'm trying to see that if those drops off, it's pretty much sometimes empty and which is very difficult to absorb. Is that something okay? Is it something because that's kind of scary sometimes. So I just wanted to share that. And do you think that that's something which is normal?
Well, normal or okay has no meaning.
Mhm.
But the fact that you recognized that, that can have meaning.
The idea of God transcends sexuality, but why does it make so much sense to say, like, to talk about him like as a he and nature as like mother nature? Why we kind of attribute sexuality to them?
Hi, I work in crypto industry. Uh, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on like how we could bring a sense of sacred to the crypto industry.
Do you value goodness and beauty as much as you value truth?
How do you cope with time passing in a way when it's not the ideal route from what you were trying to do? How do you add a new perspective to what is essentially lost time that you can't recover? And by that,
Hi, Kapil. My question is it necessary to spend time by yourself if you want to get to the truth?
So, okay, let's say that you spend time by yourself. So, explain what that looks like.
Uh, I mean, without spend time by yourself without any distractions. For example, most of the time I'm
Yeah.
occupied
So,
with my work,
give me an example of what that would look like. Go ahead.
not using my
Paint.
phone, not working, just by yourself, like not occupying your mind with anything.
Okay. So you turn off your phone, you stop working on something, and you go sit in a chair. Paint the picture.
Yes, that's what I was
Okay.
thinking.
Okay. So okay, fine. So you go sit in a chair. So grandmothers spend a lot of time in rocking chairs.
Yes.
They don't use phones. So are they enlightened? Do they get wisdom? Um, so you turning off the phone, you not doing any work and going sit in a chair. And I'm not making light of it. You could. That's why I asked you to paint the picture. You didn't paint it enough, so I had to paint it for you, and to confirm it with you if it was okay. And so I said a chair. It could be the floor. You may say I no I'm going to sit on the floor. That's fine. Whatever. So you go sit in a room or on the balcony or in the jungle or whatever it is by yourself and no phone, no work. Okay, so you're sitting there. Okay, so then go ahead. What happens then?
Mm, my head gets flooded with thoughts.
Okay, so you're gonna turn off the phone. You're gonna stop working. You're gonna go sit somewhere alone, and then the head gets flooded with thoughts. Okay, so then what?
uh, I get I get stuck in the cycle of thinking again.
Okay, so what is the point? So then why would you ask the question is to pursue the truth, do you have to spend time alone? And so, I called you on your phrase. I said, okay, what does spend time alone mean? Let's hear it. And so you said spend time alone means I put away the phone, I get away from work, I go sit somewhere in a chair alone. And then, but when you do that, you get flooded with thoughts, and then the cycle starts all over again. So, did you not just answer your own question?
Yes.
And really, the essence of that is, see, when you were born, you didn't have the spend time alone thing. Yeah, if you naturally did, then you did. But you picked that up from spirituality.
Right. Yeah.
You picked that up from the world, the self-help world. And the theme that will always be there until an individual is ready and willing to really get over it, is it'll always the superfluous, the disease of spirituality and self-help will always be there. No one ever speaks their own words. These are all learned behaviors. These are all learned languages. To sit alone and be by yourself and all. These have been picked up somewhere. They're not natural. They have been injected inside you by spirituality and self-help. And as we have very logically, with no belief, no opinion, no faith, no jumping on a limb, no leaps of faith, we went step by step as to what that very recommendation in spirituality books, where that would lead you. And we made it even personal to you to make it relevant. And you saw for yourself, without believing me, that that wouldn't do anything. And
Yes.
therefore, the essence of that is not to not go spend time alone. Not that that's bad. It is that picking things up from spirituality and self-help and lending an ear to that realm and continuing to subscribe to society and the world and its anemic messages, that will only lead to more nonsensical behaviors and a waste of your years. We all only have a finite number of.
Do you think it requires certain amount of Machiavellian, like manipulative effort to maintain a relationship, but it also is very being untrue to yourself?
So go ahead and explain that.
So in a relationship, it's well known that whoever cares less about the partner who cares less has the upper hand. And when you get to know that, um, as the partner, you become more happier than the other one. That's the observation. I don't know if most people agree with that. And there are a lot of things with similar kind of things. Yeah.
So when you say it makes you happier, does that happiness last?
I haven't really uh, experienced full-fledged until now, but according to my observation, but the relationship works.
The relationship works if you manipulate it, is what you're saying.
It's not manipulation, I would say. It's like polarity. um the one.
There isn't no there's it's a sincere question. It's a sincere question. And if if anything, this question at the very least um, flies in the face of the nice flowery bumper sticker crap that's out there about relationships. So at the very least, it does that, and that's a that's a meaningful realization. Um, but perhaps the greater question is: does an individual find happiness through the relationship?
I think it depends on your personality. People who are very individualistic, like can tolerate solitary life, but people who require some amount of companionship uh, do require relationship, especially later
No, but
part of life.
the individual who would prefer to be alone, then he probably would not maybe get into a relationship unless he got into it before he realized he wanted to be alone, so does it not self-select?
Yeah, but that is idealistically, but there is also societal pressures. Some people get into relationships.
Sure, yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Yeah,
And so your question speaks to the fact that bumper stickers are nonsense and that things are far more dirty and grainy than the cleanliness that society wishes you to believe.
yeah. To put it in a more meaningful way, it's a clear observation that being too nice or giving too much attention uh, m- makes the other partner lose interest in you. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, there's validity to that, but the the deeper aspect of that is whenever there's too anything, it leads to something. Now, whenever there's too anything, it leads to something, and that thing, even though it leads to something, so-called good for the individual at that time, it could also lead to something so-called bad for him down the line.
Yeah, that's what is my question basically. Like there's a like contrary, like um, two opposite like outcomes um, when you are not really true in the relationship, but you make it work by dealing it in a certain way. The relationship works, but it may not be like comes with a cost that you're not being true to yourself.
Uh, Perhaps the not being true to yourself may, for a given individual, be less important than making the relationship work. And for another individual, the being true to yourself may be more important than making the relationship work. And so therefore, that once again leads to what someone's really looking for, as opposed to looking at it from the standpoint of what is correct.
Yeah,
Sincere
I agree.
question.
I think I agree with
Is there such a thing as random in this world, or is everything by design?
Hello. Um, I have a question, which is that in one of your previous writings, you said about Stoicism. Wisdom does not beget Stoicism. Stoicism begets wisdom. I probably got the wording right because I'm kind of nervous. But essentially, the idea was that if you are if you want to be stoic, you kind of have to work it through a reverse angle of instead of trying to be stoic, you sort of try to become wiser first through experience, and then as a natural consequence of living a good life, you become stoic as a consequence rather than aiming at stoicism directly. Can you elaborate a bit on that? I know you've written posts about it, but still I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Share my thoughts about what? I mean, what don't you understand?
What was absurd for me in this is that I actually kind of agreed with this in the sense that when I read a lot of self-help literature in the contemporary context, I know it has a very sort of derisive connotations when you actually use the word self-help, but there's a famous person, Ryan Holiday, who's written a lot about Stoics, and the idea is that you always sort of a lot of people say to try to advocate, to emulate the ideas of what Stoics have done. And you have made an argument that, like, rather than sort of aiming directly at stoicism, sort of live a good life and sort of try to become wise, and then.
Well, I think that you're guilty of what almost everyone's guilty of when they read my work, is that I'm not advocating that. What I am saying is that trying to be stoic can never make anyone wise. The difference is, I am not saying that you shouldn't do it. I recommend nothing. But you can practice stoicism and meditation and mindfulness and all of these things, and that does not lead to wisdom. But it doesn't mean I don't recommend it. It doesn't mean that I say you shouldn't do it. You can do whatever you want. So you attributed those words to me, and you said that I recommended that you should do that, and that's why words must be chosen very carefully. I did not recommend either way. You can do whatever you want, but I will say that trying to be stoic will absolutely, never in a million years, lead to wisdom. Now, you also said that I said that you should pursue wisdom as a way to get to stoicism. Well, why the hell would anyone want to be stoic? If you are, you are. But once again, this is a classic example of the prescription becoming the goal. What you get into heaven if you're stoic? You get points? There's no points for anything. So these are all just these are the turning the prescriptions into the God. You should be stoic. No, you shouldn't. There's no should. If you want to be stoic, you can. If you want to follow all the books that you're mentioning about, go ahead, do it. But stoicism will never lead to wisdom. Ever. Ever. You could practice for 1,000,000 lifetimes. It will never happen. Does that mean you shouldn't do it? No. You can even try it for yourself. And that's the best way to do it. Try it for yourself and see for yourself. Don't believe me. But I'm saying it won't. But I'm not saying you shouldn't do it.
Thank you so much. My apologies. I actually sort of misattributed.
No. I that's something that everyone does. So I'm not singling you out. But I have to mention these things when they happen, because it has to be very, very clear, because everyone, like I said, is conditioned to believe that whatever, because they come from a world in which everything is done and told you what to do. So everything is, everyone tells you what to do. So I am making the point very abundantly clear that I am not in any shape or fashion recommending anything. But I am saying that that isn't true.
That's thank you so much. And just one more question. I don't want to take more of your time, but like what I do is like I make sort of like a in my head like a hierarchy matrix of like all these different recommendations and schools of philosophy that people recommend, and then try to litmus test some ideas of some things in my own life and then see like how it plays out. So for me, I call it iterating between different things. I would assume that you probably have a better wording or a better philosophy of trying to sort of litmus test different ideas. But like for me personally, I just try a lot of different things, see what sticks on the wall, and then see how it goes. Yeah, that's my last thought.
No, I don't litmus test those things. I don't, because I know all prescriptions are nonsense. So it might take you, I mean, you're deeply into intellectualism. You have a soft heart for self-help. And, you know, it'll probably take many lifetimes to get over that, um, but that's just where you are. And, but yes, testing it is far better than believing it.
See a problem with consciously trying to change your short game. And by short game, I don't mean like golf short game. I mean like the way that you do your chores, the way that you like wash the dishes. Because like the way I've been doing it for 17 years has been goddamn mediocre.
Hey Kapil, does all prescriptions come from the mind?
Hello, Kapil. I wanted to ask about the text, the old text like Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Do you find them, are they prescriptive only, or are they useful in seeking truth?
You know, I've written about that somewhere. You may want to, I think it's on the website. You may want to look it up there, because it's quite it's a little bit involved.
Okay.
Your voice, I cannot hear you clearly.
I guess this should be better. Um, I have imbibed so much conditioning and did everything according to what my conditioning said, and it hasn't gotten me anywhere. So at this point of time, I'm like, why should I even trust my decisions? And if I don't trust my decisions, like, how do I even navigate? So, is there any reason that a person could even trust their own decisions now that they know that it is only conditioning in the mind that is set?
No, your mistrust is well founded.
I'm sorry, what?
Hello. Hi, Kapil. Is there something you can do as a parent
to nudge your child towards the pursuit of truth?
The child is, especially when they're young, they're closer to truth than the parent is. So actually, it's the other way around.
Thank you for letting me speak. I just want to tell that something that pains me a lot is to see people exploiting other people in the name of caste, religion, race, sexuality, and stuff. And I want to do something about it. Like it really hurts me. I don't know if it's because of the compassion or empathy or whatever it is, but it is something that is a constant source of stress for me, and I want to do something to change that, to bring about a difference. So is there an advice that you have, or we should accept that people would be like this and there is nothing much that can be done and everyone would be like in this default state?
There's no should. If that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. And if you wish to do something about it, you may.
Writings and my observation of people around me, I can clearly see that societies devolve, and the music and the movies that are made are of lower and lower quality, and just bad profanity and noise and so on. I still listen to and learn from the music from 1960s and 70s, and but I don't feel like the music that is made today will be played decades from now. So my question is the sincerity of the artist the only thing that separates true art from noise?
I mean, it doesn't matter how long something is going to be around. Um, if it's around for a long time, it's around for a long time. But that isn't really the judgment. I mean, there's no real judgment about it. If one is sincere when they produce what they are, if they are not, then they're not. But there's no flag waving or gold medal for someone being sincere either.
Right. I
If
don't
one
think-
wishes to, if one wishes to produce art, then they produce art, and if they don't, then they don't.
Right.
Is it possible to live without any sort of value system other than just the basic physical needs that a human being needs to live?
Anything's possible. There's no impossible. Anything's possible.
Thank you.
My question is, how does one know if that want is pure or not? Can the want originate from something that is imp?
My question is, how do we handle and manage entropy in a world of complete disorder in order to reach, perfection and happiness?
There's no handle. There's no how. There's no manage. There's no happiness.
knowing something intellectually is not enough. Knowing what stands in the way of knowing something by heart. Is it only experience or what else?
One of the things that stands in the way is the value that one places upon the intellect. So for the intellectual, knowing something intellectually is knowing it viscerally in his own mind. It isn't really, but because for the intellectual, the person who values the intellect greatly, then the intellect is everything. So that value that he places upon it, that helps to determine and what blockages stand in the way from knowing it viscerally.
Hello, Kapil. Um, I run a small group of individuals here in my local hometown, and basically, one of the things that they've asked me to do is have a mentorship program, and I didn't know how to go about doing this, so I called it Light Club. And the one thing that I've been trying to preach is that a lot of people are human doings. They're humans that are trying to do things. How do I do this? How do I do that? I've read all your books that you've released publicly. And one of the messages that I imbibed from it was you need to be a human being and just be. And once you become who you are at the most intrinsic level, that things happen naturally. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Things come to you naturally, and you don't have any sort of expectations, desires, goals. None, like in my life personally, friends
So what's your
around me.
question?
My question is, as far as a human being versus a human doing, is that a concept or an insight that you would agree with, that you should just be instead of trying to do something? And is that one of the core messages behind a lot of your books, like direct truth and things like that?
I don't recommend being either.
Namaste, Dr. Gupta. It's an honor to speak to you. Is there such a thing as, or is that just a sequence of someone's natural devotion and sincerity?
You broke up.
I was asking, is there such a thing as luck or grace in pursuit of success, or is that just a consequence of one's devotion and sincerity to that pursuit?
In practical matters, it doesn't matter, because whether there was or there wasn't, there's nothing you can do about that.
Right.
I have a hard time conceptualizing truth, and I guess this is by design because people fall into semantic traps. But I see that things like ego and ideology and kind of concepts and intellectualizing get in the way. So, is coming upon truth more about the removal of what stands in the way, or is it more like gaining something in the process?
It could be either, but that's why I say truth is the devotion to truth.
Thank you.
Hello, Doc. Thanks for having me up here again. So I just want to probe an idea that I feel like is, probably the most provocative, which is the idea of DNA. Now, I mean, two practical, responses could be, well, DNA, I'll show you DNA, and the second one being, well, I'll just take my ball and go home now. So, I mean, I guess like what I'm trying to say is, am I thinking about this the right way? Like, if DNA, if you have the former response where you're like, well, I'll prove something to someone, I'll change my DNA. I mean, is it supposed to elicit a response? And if it is that, some
DNA has nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with anyone else. There's no comparison here. DNA is one's deep-seated sensibilities.
so does that mean you're sort of, doomed in a way if like you're just not
You're doomed. You're doomed, or you're doomed, or you're awarded. But everyone sort of gets a way out, or a way towards. So if someone's DNA is to be social, but at some point they see the superfluousness of that, then they also had the DNA of getting over that. But I would say that it doesn't really matter, because even the individuals who have the DNA, I mean, the influence of society and uh, social constructs and spirituality and self-help and motivation and books and media and friendships and just the entire society, the influence of that is so powerful that it actually overrides whatever latent possibilities may be within someone, and therefore those latent things better be extraordinarily strong to overcome the brainwashing and conditioning and ruinous exposure to society.
It's Om Pandey. My question is, recently I am been suffering from a heart attack, and I don't know. Sorry, I don't know where I'm going with it. Does it does it make sense to me to live this type of things, which
Hi, Dr. Gupta. Thank you so much for all your work. My question is basically whenever I think about death, it seems to calm my mind down. Um, Sometimes it even produces urgency and makes things.
Hello, everyone. My name is Martha. I have a question. The question is about the nature of our reality. Would you call it a dual reality?
Hi, Kapil. Should we understand procrastination as a similar thing to addictions like smoking and alcohol or drugs? Or is another way to understand procrastination at the root of it in order to overcome it?
Hello, Kapil. What is truth?
The devotion to truth. Good night.